My wife went on a business trip with her male assistant for 6 months. When we met again, she was holding her 3-month pregnant belly and demanded that I help her with fetal protection. You are the best obstetrician. You must save this child or I'll divorce you. Later, I performed the fetal preservation surgery for her. After the surgery, I called Dad. I'm preparing for a divorce. I'll come work at your hospital. Also cancel all our collaborations with Somerset Hospital. My dad paused upon hearing my words, then asked me, did you really think it through? He said, it's good if you did. We have our own hospital, yet you went to work at hers. You're a top-tier OB-GYN making only $10,000 a month. It gives me chest pains. But are you sure about the divorce? This time you won't go soft again. But this time I was very firm. After hanging up, I stepped out of the ward and saw my colleague's sympathetic looks. A colleague handed me the report. I glanced at it. The threatened miscarriage was caused by recent intense sexual activity. Holding the report, I took a deep breath and pushed open Lillian's ward door. She had just woken up. Seeing me, she frowned and asked directly, how's my baby now? Is there still a risk of miscarriage? Her eyes were full of worry. Clearly she cared a lot about this baby. It reminded me that we had once had a child together. But that baby was lost in a miscarriage caused by Lillian going skydiving. When she found out she'd lost the baby, she was expression. There wasn't a trace of grief, like a mother losing her child. Later, I learned the reason she went skydiving. It was because her best friend's younger brother, Barry Appleton, had returned from abroad. She insisted on skydiving at 5 months pregnant to celebrate with Barry. That's how the baby was lost. Hearing Lillian's words now, pain surged in my heart. I clenched my fingers and said, the baby's safe. Don't worry. The surgery was a success. Lillian breathed a sigh of relief. The worry in her eyes finally faded a bit. Looking at her like this, my voice trembled slightly. You were away for 6 months and now you're 3 months pregnant. I paused for a moment. And now you're carrying someone else's child and still come to me for fetal protection. Did you do this on purpose? Lillian was stunned for a moment. After hearing me, she finally looked up at me. Then she actually frowned and nodded. Is there a problem? You're a top OB-GYN. Only if I come to you can the baby be perfectly safe. Then she paused, frowning even deeper. Lucas, can't you stop being so petty? I clenched my fingers even tighter. I really couldn't understand how she could say something so shameless. In the past, Lillian always used divorce to threaten me because I loved her. I would panic every time she said it, but not anymore. I looked at her and sneered coldly. Fine, let's get divorced, I said, and Lillian was stunned for a moment. But right then her phone rang. Lillian immediately picked up the call. Don't worry. Our baby is fine. Why are you feeling guilty? It's not your fault. She didn't care at all about the divorce I had just brought up. She just kept comforting Barry and didn't spare me even a glance. My hands and feet slowly turned cold. I closed my eyes and turned to leave the room. Back in my office, I first asked my dad's lawyer to prepare a divorce agreement. Then I opened my computer to continue planning for upcoming surgeries. I picked up my phone and checked social media. Sure enough, Barry had posted, thanks, dear, for the suit and watch. Tonight she even treated me to a feast. But we ordered a bit too much, couldn't finish the restaurant's famous shrimp spaghetti, so we packed it home for the dog. By the time I got home, it was already late at night. As soon as I walked in, I saw Lillian in the bathroom washing a pair of men's underwear. The thing in Lillian's hand was obviously not mine. She had never washed a piece of clothing for me before, so it was obvious whose it belonged to. When she saw me come in, Lillian frowned and looked at me. Why are you only getting home now? Did you eat the spaghetti? Hearing her words, I let out a cold I'm allergic to seafood. Did you forget? Lillian froze, a trace of embarrassment flashing in her eyes. Then she picked up her I'll order you something else. I sneered. Don't bother. With that, I headed straight to the bedroom. After washing up and lying down, Lillian also got into bed. She hugged me from behind. Lucas, don't worry. After I give birth to this baby, I'll give you one, too. The heavy scent of men's cologne on her made my head ache. A wave of nausea surged through me. Without thinking, I broke free from her. Then I turned on the bedside lamp and looked at her coldly repeating what I had said that morning. Lillian, let's get divorced. This time no one interrupted. Lillian finally heard me clearly. We stared at each other for several seconds. Then she actually sneered, divorce? You want to divorce me? Lucas, can you stop joking around like this? What's the reason? Just because I'm pregnant with Barry's child? I told you already. He has cancer and won't live long. I looked into Lillian's eyes and actually laughed. I asked her, is he really dying of cancer? I took Barry's medical report from the nightstand and handed it to her. He's perfectly healthy. He never had cancer in the first place. He's been lying to you from the very beginning. Lillian glanced at the report, but there wasn't a trace of surprise in her eyes. In that moment, my heart sank to the bottom. Lillian looked at me and said, after a moment of silence, Barry just told a little lie. It's not a big deal. The child's already in me. Now what? Should I just get rid of it? Lucas, since when did you become so heartless? After saying that, she actually picked up a cup from the table and smashed it on my head. A sharp pain spread across my forehead. A flicker of panic appeared in Lillian's eyes. She reached out to pull me, but I dodged her. At that, Mom, whatever last bit of hope I had for her disappeared completely. I didn't say a word. I just left the house. Sitting in the car, I grabbed a cotton ball and dabbed some medicine on the wound. I closed my eyes. Lillian had been the campus belle in our university. She was beautiful, smart, outstanding. Like anyone else, I had fallen for her at first sight and began pursuing her obsessively. But she rejected me outright. So I kept my feelings hidden. Then one day, out of nowhere, she approached me and agreed to be my girlfriend. She even introduced me to her best friend and that friend's younger brother. From that day on, we started dating. After graduation, she asked me to work there. So I rejected my dad and joined her family's hospital. Back then, Somerset Hospital was on the verge of bankruptcy. I begged my dad to sell our hospital's equipment to them at a huge discount. Combined with my medical skills, Somerset Hospital finally turned around and became successful. Everything was moving in the right direction. But then her best friend's brother, Barry, returned from abroad. And during that time, I learned the truth. Lillian had only agreed to date me back then, despite Barry. They had been in a secret relationship, but Barry had broken up with her abruptly. Even after knowing the truth, I thought maybe after all these years, she'd have grown some real feelings for me. But I never expected that she'd just keep hurting me again and again. This time, I was ready to let go completely. I looked at the divorce agreement. My lawyer had just sent me tomorrow. I'll hand it to actually. I owned a villa in Newcastle. It was a gift from my dad when I became an adult. I drove there in the middle of the night. But I didn't expect to run into my old high school rival, Suzanne Cole, in the villa neighborhood. Back in high school, she was always ranked first in exams while I was second. Every time we met, we never had a pleasant word for each other. She had gone abroad after graduation. I didn't expect that. Suzanne now lived right across from my villa. I was a bit surprised. You live here too? Weren't you overseas? Why are you back? Suzanne was momentarily stunned by my question. I just got back recently. Thought the neighborhood looked nice, so I bought the place. Didn't expect we'd be neighbors. Since we're old classmates, let's keep in touch. She handed me a business card. I looked at it. CEO of Smith Eagle Pharma Tech. The next day I arrived at the hospital, but the moment I stepped into my office, I was shocked to see Barry sitting in my chair. He looked at the wound on my forehead and smirked provocatively. Rough night on the streets after Lillian kicked you out, huh? That injury on your head. Man, you look pathetic. He laughed and pulled out a box from his bag. Lillian and I saw this on our trip. Thought it'd be the perfect gift for you. Have a look. See if you like it. I opened the box and saw an ugly green shirt. I clenched the shirt, staring daggers at him. But Barry just looked even more smug. He picked up the shirt from my hand and leaned in closer, mocking me. This green shirt suits you perfectly. Even if Lillian knows I faked the cancer, so what? She's still gonna have my baby. She'll do whatever I tell her. She's more obedient than any dog. This hospital's profits will all be mine. She's mine to control, just like you. Hearing this, my fists cracked from the pressure. I swung and punched him straight in the face. You disgusting piece of trash. Ruining someone's marriage and still running your mouth. I'll beat the crap out of you. Barry crumpled to the ground, holding his face in disbelief. You hit me. Lillian won't let you get away with this. I sneered, grabbed his hair and was about to land another punch when Lillian suddenly barged in. Without hesitation, she grabbed a nearby chair and smashed it across my back. Stop it, Lucas. My back burned with pain. I turned around to face her, only to be hit squarely in the face with a lunchbox. The sting of hot meal exploded on my skin. Lillian glared at me viciously. You said you're allergic to seafood, so I brought you shepherd's pie this time. And you repay me by beating people who gave you the guts to lay a hand on him? The sticky pastry clung to my face. My barely healed head wound split open again, but I didn't feel a thing. I stared coldly at Lillian. I pointed to the green shirt on the ground and laughed bitterly. Why don't you take a look at what he gave me just now? He said you cheated on me countless times and insulted you severely. Lillian only glanced at Barry. He quickly covered his face and pitifully showed her his injuries. Lillian, my face really hurts. Help me bandage it, okay? Lillian panicked immediately, her eyes full of worry as she helped him up. It was just a joke. Lucas. Apologize to Barry. I stared at her coldly. Apologize in your dreams. We locked eyes for a full minute before she finally pulled Barry away. An hour later, the hospital's general meeting began. Lillian opened the meeting with a bombshell. After internal discussion, we've decided drive. Lucas violated company policy by assaulting a staff member. Effective immediately, he is terminated. Lillian's words left everyone stunned. All eyes turned to me, filled with sympathy. But the one who stood up first was Dr. Phoenix, my closest friend and colleague. You're seriously going to fire Lucas? He's the star doctor of this hospital. Most of our patients are wealthy and high profile. 90% of them came here because of him. If you fire him, are you out of your mind? As soon as Dr. Phoenix spoke, other colleagues who were close to me chimed in. Yeah, director, you can't fire Drive. Kent would. He's got multiple surgeries scheduled next month. Who's going to do them if he's gone? Lillian's expression wavered. She knew exactly how important I was to this hospital. Without me, her small, private OB/GYN hospital wouldn't have survived in the capital. She glanced at Barry, then looked back at me. Her tone was full of condescension. Lucas, I'll say it one more time. Apologize to Barry. I'll consider not firing you. I heard her and sneered again. Barry Lynn frowned at her words. Lillian, you're really going to let him off with just an apology? My mouth still hurts, you know. A grown man whining in public. Everyone shot him looks of disdain. I watched them and laughed coldly before standing up in her smug gaze. I said clearly, apologize in your dreams. No need for you to fire me. I quit. With that, I left the meeting room in big strides while Lillian stared after me in disbelief. Back in my office, I started packing. I saw the wedding photo of me and Lillian on my desk. This time, without hesitation, I threw it into the trash. That's when Lillian barged into my office. She saw the photo in the trash and screamed, Lucas, are you crazy? What are you doing? When I saw her again after 6 long months, I felt like I was looking at a stranger, my wife, Lillian, standing there with a barely concealed 3-month pregnant belly, looking at me like I was nothing more than a convenient tool, a top-tier OB/GYN whose hand she trusted more than anyone else's, not as a husband, not as a man whose heart she had once claimed to love, but as a means to keep the child she had conceived with someone else alive, and she didn't even try to hide it. You were the best obstetrician, she said flatly, placing her hand on her stomach. You must save this child or I'll divorce you. No remorse, no apology, not even shame. Just a demand. And like the idiot I had become after years of giving in to her threats and ultimatums, I performed the surgery, not out of love or obligation anymore, but because I refused to let an innocent life pay for the cruelty of adults. After the surgery, I stepped into the hallway and called my father. "I'm done," I said. "Prepare the divorce documents. I'll come work at your hospital again. Also, cancel all our equipment collaborations with Somerset Hospital." There was a pause, then his tired sigh came through the phone. "Did you finally think it through?" he asked, and when I confirmed, he said, "Good. You've given too much already." He was right. I had sacrificed my independence, my pride, and even my father's respect just to prop up Lillian's crumbling family hospital, all because she asked. I was a top-tier OB-GYN making just $10,000 a month while my name alone could have earned me triple elsewhere, but I did it because I thought it would make her love me, because I believed that if I gave enough, one day she would stop threatening to leave every time things didn't go her way. I was wrong. When I stepped out of the ward, my colleagues gave me those same sympathetic glances they'd always given behind her back, the kind that said, "You deserve better," but no one ever dared speak it aloud. One of them handed me a post-op report. I glanced at it. The threatened miscarriage had been caused by intense recent sexual activity. I stared at the report for a few seconds, fingers trembling slightly, before pushing open the ward door again. Lillian was sitting upright, looking completely at ease, her hair brushed, skin glowing from the pregnancy, and when she saw me, she frowned impatiently. "How's my baby? Is there still a risk?" Her voice was clipped, but her eyes were full of worry, for the baby, not for me. Not for the man who had just operated on her. Not for the husband she had abandoned. It reminded me painfully of the child we once lost together, the one she had flushed away with zero remorse because she just had to go skydiving while 5 months pregnant, claiming she couldn't miss the celebration with Barry Appleton, her best friend's younger brother who had just come back from abroad. That was the day I first realized she didn't love me, not really. Not in the way I had loved her. But I stayed. I stayed and hoped she'd change. "The baby's safe," I said quietly, and she exhaled with visible relief, as if I was just a background actor delivering her plotline. "You were away for 6 months, and now you're 3 months pregnant," I said after a long silence. "You were carrying someone else's child and still came to me for fetal protection. Did you do this on purpose?" She blinked at me and then, God help me, she actually nodded. "Is there a problem?" she asked. "You were the best. Of course I came to you." She tilted her head like I was being unreasonable. "Lucas, can't you stop being so petty?" Petty. That was the word she used after abandoning me, cheating on me, and now using my skills to preserve a pregnancy born from infidelity. I clenched my fists so hard I felt my nails break skin, but I just smiled bitterly and said, "Fine. Let's get divorced." That should have shaken her, but before she could even respond, her phone rang and she answered instantly, her voice soft and loving. "Don't worry, our baby is fine. You don't need to feel guilty, it's not your fault," she said to Barry, the man who had been screwing my wife while I was working overnight shifts to fund her dreams. She didn't even look at me. Just kept comforting him, like I wasn't there. I walked out. Back in my office, I messaged my dad's lawyer, requested the documents, and then sat down to prepare for upcoming surgeries. I wasn't going to let her ruin my professionalism like she ruined our marriage. Then, curiosity, or masochism, led me to check social media. Barry had posted again. "Thanks, dear, for the suit and the watch. The shrimp spaghetti was amazing. We packed the rest home for the dog." The same shrimp spaghetti Lillian had once called my favorite. Except I'm allergic to seafood. That night, when I finally returned home, I found Lillian in the bathroom hand-washing a pair of men's underwear. They weren't mine. She'd never once done that for me. When she looked up, she didn't even flinch. "Why are you home so late? Did you eat the spaghetti?" she asked. "I'm allergic," I replied coldly. "Did you forget?" She froze, just for a second, before awkwardly saying, "I'll order something else." "Don't bother." I walked away. In bed, she curled up behind me and whispered, "Don't worry. After I give birth to this baby, I'll give you one too." The scent of a man's cologne still clung to her skin, and I gagged on the betrayal. I pulled away, turned on the lamp, and stared at her. "Let's get divorced." This time, there was no interruption. We stared at each other, and she actually laughed. "Just because I'm pregnant with Barry's baby? He has cancer, Lucas. He's dying." I said nothing. I reached over, picked up a folder, and handed it to her. "Barry's medical report, clean. No cancer. Never had it." She stared at it for a moment, not in shock, not in horror, but in utter indifference. "So he told a little lie," she said. "It's not a big deal." My blood ran cold. "So what now? I abort it?" she asked. "You've become so heartless." Then, without warning, she picked up a mug and smashed it against my forehead. Blood trickled down my face, and all I could do was stare at her, numb. "Lucas," she gasped, reaching for me. I stepped back. No more. No more trying. No more hope. No more Lillian. I left the house without a word. I drove aimlessly until my hands stopped shaking, then cleaned the wound with a cotton ball and antiseptic from my glove box. I looked at myself in the mirror and realized I didn't recognize the man in the reflection. I used to be second in my class. Now I was second in my own marriage. All because of her. And Barry. But not anymore. I pulled out my phone and opened the draft divorce agreement. Tomorrow, I would hand it to her. And this time, I wouldn't go soft. I arrived at the hospital the next morning with the bandage still pressed to my forehead, still numb from the night before, the bruise still fresh not just on my skin, but in every part of me that used to believe Lillian was capable of love, or at least remorse, but I guess I needed one final scene to convince myself there was nothing left to save, and that scene unfolded the moment I stepped into my office and found Barry lounging in my chair like he owned it, his legs crossed, his smirk ready, his arrogance practically oozing through the air like stale cologne, and before I could say a word, he looked at the cut on my head and laughed. "Rough night on the couch after she kicked you out?" he said, stretching like a cat who knew he couldn't be touched. "You look pathetic, Doc." He reached into a bag and pulled out a box, placing it on my desk like it was a peace offering. "Lillian and I saw this on our trip," he said mockingly. Thought it'd be the perfect gift for you. Go on, open it. I didn't want to. But I did. Inside was an ugly green shirt, intentionally gaudy, the kind of thing no sane man would wear. I stared at it, silent, but Barry leaned in with a grin and whispered, "Green suits you, doesn't it?" He was calling me the fool. The cuckold. The man who raised another's child and still came back for more. Even if Lillian knows I faked the cancer, he went on, so what? She's still gonna have my baby. She listens to everything I say. She's more obedient than any dog. This hospital? Mine now. She'll give it to me. Just like you gave her everything. I didn't feel the punch until it landed. My fist cracked across his jaw with a force I didn't know I still had, and Barry stumbled back, slamming against the cabinet, blinking in stunned silence. "You disgusting piece of trash," I growled. "You ruin a marriage and still run your mouth?" He hit the floor, cursing, holding his cheek, and I didn't stop. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him back into the wall, raising my fist again. That's when the door burst open. Lillian came in screaming, her voice shrill and furious. Without hesitation, she grabbed a chair and smashed it into my back. I staggered, pain shooting down my spine, but before I could react, she threw a lunchbox at my face, the hot food inside splattering across my cheek and forehead. "You said you were allergic to seafood," she screamed. "So I brought you shepherd's pie this time. And this is how you repay me?" I stood there, dripping, stunned, blinking as the sting of tomato and meat sauce mixed with the open wound on my scalp. "He gave me that shirt," I said, pointing at the box. "He called you his pet. He said you've cheated on me countless times." "It was just a joke," she snapped, kneeling beside Barry, who whimpered pitifully and leaned into her arms. "Lucas, apologize to him." That was when I realized there was nothing left to mourn. Not a marriage. Not a partnership. Not even dignity. Just a rotten connection that needed to be severed. "Apologize?" I said, my voice hollow. "In your dreams." An hour later, the hospital held its monthly general meeting, and I sat at the head table, silent, my body still aching from the blows. Lillian stood before the entire staff and declared, with no emotion in her voice, after internal discussion, "We've decided that Dr. Lucas Kent violated hospital policy by assaulting a staff member. Effective immediately, he is terminated." A silence fell over the room. Dr. Phoenix, my closest colleague, stood up first, visibly shaking. "You were firing Lucas?" he asked. "The man who built this hospital's reputation? Half of our patients come here because of him." Another doctor added, "He has 12 surgeries booked next month. Who's going to handle those?" The room filled with murmurs, most of them shocked, some furious, but Lillian just looked at me and said, "You can keep your job. Just apologize to Barry." "No," I said. "I'm not begging for scraps." She stared at me, and I could see the crack forming in her composure, but I didn't let up. I stood slowly and said, "No need for you to fire me. I quit." I walked out of that room with my head held high, passed through the hallway lined with stunned nurses and admin staff who all knew what this really was, a power play, a performance, a punishment. Back in my office, I started packing. I picked up the wedding photo on my desk, our forced smiles, my naive hope, and without hesitation, dropped it into the trash. That's when Lillian stormed in. She saw the photo, gasped, and screamed, "Lucas, are you insane? What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I zipped up my bag, shut my laptop, and grabbed my coat. "You were just going to walk away?" she yelled. "After everything I gave you?" I turned around slowly. "You gave me nothing but betrayal," I said. "And now I'm taking back the only thing you never appreciated, myself." I walked out. That evening, I contacted my father. "Pull the plug on all cooperation with Somerset Hospital," I said. "Effective immediately." "Gladly," he replied. "I've waited years to hear you say that." I spent the night in my villa in Newcastle, my own, my inheritance, and as I stepped out to take a call, I ran into Suzanne Cole, of all people. My old high school rival. Sharp tongue. Sharper mind. She had always beaten me by a single point in every exam, and now she was standing on the porch across from mine, holding a glass of wine, just as stunned to see me as I was to see her. "You live here?" I asked. "Didn't you go abroad?" "I just got back," she said, smiling slightly. "Thought the neighborhood looked nice. Didn't expect you'd be my neighbor." She handed me a business card. CEO of Smith Eagle Pharma Tech. I stared at it for a beat. "Since we're neighbors now," she said, "maybe we can finally compete on something bigger than test scores." I laughed. For the first time in days, it was genuine. "Looking forward to it," I said. But deep down, I knew the competition was over. I wasn't trying to beat anyone anymore. I was just trying to start again, and maybe, just maybe, I was finally ready. It was supposed to be the lowest point of my life, jobless, betrayed, bleeding emotionally and physically from the woman I once promised forever to, exiled from the hospital I helped resurrect, discarded like dead weight by the people I sacrificed everything for, but standing on the balcony of my villa in Newcastle with Suzanne Cole's business card in my hand, I felt something shift, something subtle but powerful, like the first deep breath after a long suffocation, and when I looked up and saw her watching me from across the courtyard with that same calculating gleam in her eyes I remembered from high school, I knew right then this wasn't the end, it was the rebirth. The next morning, I met her at a downtown cafe. She didn't waste time. "We are building a flagship hospital," she said, sliding a sleek folder across the table. "Private, specialized, elite. I need someone who can handle full OB/GYN operations with surgical leadership, research development, and team expansion. And I want that person to be you." I blinked. "Why me?" She smirked. "Because you're smart, brilliant under pressure, and reckless enough to throw away $1 million hospital to keep your dignity. I want that kind of integrity on my team." When I opened the folder, I nearly dropped my coffee. Base salary, $1.2 million annually, with full surgical autonomy, equity options, and global research partnerships. "We're opening in 3 months," she said. "You'll build your team, your ward, your name. Are you ready to win now?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I doubted, but because I couldn't remember the last time someone believed in me without demanding I tear myself apart for them first. I'm ready, I said, finally. And this time, I'm not building it for anyone but myself. Within the week, I moved forward like a man with fire in his blood. My name disappeared from Somerset's directory. Patients began reaching out to me privately, asking where I'd gone. When they heard about the new hospital, many pledged to follow. Some even pulled out from Somerset entirely. Within 2 weeks, Lillian's hospital saw a 35% drop in appointments. By the end of the month, suppliers began canceling contracts, especially after my father withdrew all equipment, maintenance, and consulting partnerships. Barry tried to salvage the chaos with press releases and fake PR campaigns, but his scandals were already trickling online. Photos of him half naked with nurses, screenshots of messages mocking Lillian, and recordings of him bragging that he manipulated her into pregnancy, all anonymously leaked. And then came the final blow. A respected journalist published an exposé titled, "Beneath the White Coat, How Dr. Lucas Kent Built Somerset," then got stabbed in the back. It went viral overnight. My inbox flooded with interview requests, but I declined them all. I didn't need to speak. The facts spoke louder. Meanwhile, I was deep into building something real. Suzanne wasn't just a CEO, she was a visionary. She didn't micromanage. She challenged. She trusted. We spent long nights in planning meetings, sketching out operating rooms, designing patient flow models, vetting surgeon portfolios. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not as a tool or a fallback, but as a partner. Late one evening, after a successful pitch to a group of international investors, she looked at me and said, "You've changed." I raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "You are not trying to prove anything anymore," she said. "You are just doing what you're meant to do." I didn't know how to respond to that. But I felt it was true. I wasn't chasing validation. I was chasing excellence. And it felt damn good. Then one morning, I received a knock at the villa. I opened the door and found Lillian standing there, sunglasses hiding her eyes, a scarf wrapped around her neck. Her voice was quiet, almost broken. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't invite her in. I stood at the door, arms crossed. "Make it quick." "Barry's gone," she said. "He ran off to Bali. Took money from the hospital accounts. The board's threatening to sue. They're saying I should have never trusted him." I said nothing. She took off her glasses, revealing eyes swollen from crying. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I didn't see things clearly. You were the one who really cared. You saved my child." "Your child," I corrected. "Never mine." She looked like she'd been slapped. "Lucas. I don't want a divorce anymore. I want to try again." I almost laughed. "You already signed the papers." "I didn't file them," she said. I couldn't. I reached into a nearby drawer and pulled out a new envelope. "Good," I said. "Then you can sign them again now. I'll file them myself." She stared at the paper, then back at me. "So that's it?" "No," I said. "That's everything." As she turned to leave, I stopped her. "Wait." She turned, hopeful. I held out a small gift box, the same one Barry had once handed me. She opened it. Inside was a new green shirt, neatly folded. A note was tucked inside. "Some things really do come full circle." She didn't say anything. She just walked away, slower this time, heavy with the weight of every lie she ever told. Weeks later, our hospital opened. Smith Eagle Medical Center. Fully booked for 3 months. The media came. I stood beside Suzanne as cameras flashed, microphones hovered, and someone asked, "What do you hope patients find here?" I looked into the crowd, my voice steady, my smile calm. "Healing," I said. "Not just for their bodies, but for their lives." The applause was deafening. That night, Suzanne and I stood on the rooftop of the hospital we built. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like I'm finally home," I said. And I meant it. I had lost everything. But what I found in the ruins was something better than revenge. I found myself.